All right, our next step is, once we have our servos installed, we have our wheels on. By the way, these screws are an M3 screw, so they will only work, you can only use an M3 screw to install your wheels to your servos. The reason why, this is not the same servo, but it has the same situation here. It is a threaded piece in that spline that only accepts M3. So only M3 goes into here. The ones that came with the servo work, and we will hand out more of them to you as well. So they will look, they're a lot smaller than the other ones. So it will be obvious which ones they are. So use the smallest ones you can for this. All right, so once we have that, we're now going to install our base, or our holder, onto the robot. So the issue is, you may have different ones. I was printing these out, and you may have ones with a bunch of holes that look like Swiss cheese. You may have ones that only have 4 holes and a big gap here. They work the same. It's just a matter of what was an earlier revision. I was printing these. They were harder to print and actually were worthless, as far as all the extra holes didn't help one bit, because I came to realize when you put this on here, because of these nuts here, there's only so much room you had to work with this way. And this back here, there's a battery that gets installed, this battery pack to run the robot. So once you put your battery pack on, this really only gives you a certain amount of holes to work with. So I would recommend putting that on there. And now when I put this on, this is all I got to work with. Basically these back here. So these guys, you do not need any nuts for. You only need the screw. Oops, let me get that anyway. These guys here. So you can use an M4 screw, that's these black ones here, or you can use a 832 standard, or these are metric M4. These are 832. This is fractional or freedom units, or whatever you want to call it. They will work as well. You don't need anything very long. It only has to go through this plate, which is like 1 millimeter, and through this base, which is like 2 or 2.5 millimeters thick. So 4 millimeters goes through everything. This base has some weird little funky things. This will accept these and kind of cut a little bit of thread into them. So facing this forward, I got my tail dragger on the back here. I'm gonna put this down, and when it's all said and done, it's basically these 4 holes. So wherever your tail dragger is, you can mount it either back one, so you can only see 1 set of holes. Let me move this up. So you only have 1 set of holes, or you can move it up a little bit and put it here. I would probably put it back here just for some weight distribution, but that's entirely up to you. They do not go down in here. It goes through here. So I'm gonna put one on here. I got this little magnet. Put this on. Get this lined up, and you can line it up from the back as well. It's pretty easy to see. And then just start one, firm pressure, and it will lock in place. Now, you don't want to crank on this. This will strip. I mean, it's plastic, but like I said, just like the servos, we're not bashing down a desert with this robot. We're going down Evans hallway, and while it can be a little bumpy, I don't think we're going to have anything crazy. So you can do 2. If you're feeling crazy, you can do 4 here. It's entirely up to you. I'm mixing and matches. I'm doing 832s. The 832s, by the way, will be Phillips. I'm using these hex ones just because I didn't feel like getting out another set of stuff. These are stainless, whereas these are just regular steel. Doesn't really matter. We're not going to have it long enough for galvanic corrosion or anything like that, but something like that. So now this is mounted. They are sticking up a little bit. That's okay, because our board, the pins on the board go here. Now, mind you, if you put like a 30 millimeter one or a 2-inch screw, yes, it's going to hit the board. So be careful there. The ones we give you should work fine, but don't have anything sticking up too far. So same story here. When you put this one on, these back 4 are really the ones you want to be working on. You'll see them line up when you're holding this, but the key is they come from the back, and then you can install it in place. All right, last thing, this guy here. So we had one of our servos that we're using for propulsion now here. So what do? Well, we're giving you another servo. So this is the illustrious DGU FPV. This is a copy of a decent servo. So this is 2 steps removed from good. However, for what we're doing, moving an ultrasonic sensor around, this will be fine. So same story, thread this through right here. This one's a little tighter, but they're still 20 by 40 millimeter roughly. So just gotta finagle it in there and then press it down and you'll feel it kind of lock in place here. Now, one thing to note, when you go to put these back in the box, this is gonna stick up. So nothing's perfect. So you may wanna put this in here. Oh, and by the way, when you try to take this back out, it's lifting up this plastic. You're gonna have to hold that down with your finger or whatever and kind of work this back out when you go to take these in or out. What is nice about this though, this uses the same exact spline and the same exact screw that are used on these. So that means although your DGU MG, which Metal Gear 996Rs do come with a whole complement of servo horns, you can still use your ultrasonic one that came with the Parallax. Put it on there just like that, that'll work fine. I would not recommend putting a screw in here and holding this down because you're going to want to take this off to work with your servo for 3B. You're going to be working with servo stuff, and nothing worse than having this thing turn around and hit you or crunch your fingers or whatever. You're going to want to take that off for now or not leave this permanently attached. In fact, my recommendation would be to grab this horn out of there. This is the kind of Y one here, and you can really see then where this thing is spinning. Without anything, it's hard to tell with this spline, but with this on there, you can definitely see, you know, when it's turning and where it's lining up and stuff like that. So it makes it a little nicer. And like I said, don't put that on there. Just take that off and pop it off when you don't need it. Put it back in your bag. Most of this stuff in this bag is not needed. These little screws and ferrules and plastic stuff. There is, however, one more of those little M3 screws. This one's very small. It probably will not work having to go through both the plastic for the ultrasonic mount, but we are giving you a few others anyway, so you're more than welcome to use these for it. Oh, and it'll work out fine. All right, so to recap, a couple of things about the screws. The servos are mounted to the robot with 632 screws. All right, these are 632s. The servos have the wheels mounted with an M3 by 6 or 8. I think these are 8s. You mount your ultrasonic eventually if you want. This is also an M3. That's the middle one. These little guys here are M2s, but the middle one is an M3 by 6 or 8. To mount your base to your bottom plate of your robot, these are M4s or 832s. Both will work. They're not exactly equivalent, but for the plastic that we're cutting into, they don't care. So either one will work fine there. All right. So if you have any questions or problems, this is kind of a home base now. You'll be working on your servo work, the standard servo. So mounting it in here or putting it in here helps. So that way you have somewhere and you put your snap back your base in here and you should be good to go. And then the next labs, lab 4s, will be working on actually moving the robot using the continuous rotation servos. Thank you very much. Have a good one.